All right, we're out by the chicken coop, and I've been tipped off that that one of our employees here is stealing from us, and so we're gonna go see if we can't catch him. Rain accelerates the garden. Obviously, it accelerates growth of both the plants that you want and the ones you don't want. So let's talk a little bit about weed control. First and foremost, there's too much garden here for one person to continuously weed. So we have to take some steps and some actions to make sure that we don't just get completely overrun and overwhelmed with weeds. The first thing we do is we just lay down hay. The old Ruth Stout method of laying down a big thick layer of hay, and then all that you got to do is go in, pull out your weeds, flip them over, lay them on top, and they become new mulch that quickly. These guys right here, this particular weed right here, is not all that big of a problem. It's a pretty soft weed. It dies off pretty quick after it gets hot outside, but it's also really easy to just pull up and control. There's some other ones that cause a little more problems though. Of course, these areas with the black plastic, they don't need much weed control at all. The black plastic pretty much takes care of all of it. All we got to do is go into the base, pull out any little seedlings that might be popping up right around the plant. Corn, it's a grass. Its biggest enemy is a grass. This little guy right here. These guys will overwhelm your garden. They'll overrun you fast. I mean, look at this. It's been 2 days since I've been out here, and look how big this guy's gotten. It's really important that if you're sowing into bare ground like this, that you keep this area clear of these weeds, either through hand picking or through chemicals if that's your thing. But to be honest, this is not the best way to do it. I think I just need a good hoe. Hoeing is best done in the cool part of the day, so I have responsibly put it off until 1:30 in the afternoon. Once your hoeing's complete, you can allow the weeds to dry in the sun for a full day, and then come back and dress the surface with some sort of mulch, like raked leaves or yard clippings, or in our case, wood chips. Where'd we get so many wood chips from? So a few years ago, the family decided that I needed a fence around the garden to keep the dogs out, of course. I quickly learned that it was actually to keep me in. However, this year is just a little bit different, and I've been given permission to work outside the fence.
Be there some manner of rite or incantation? Aye. Calypso? Release you from your human bonds. Calypso!
maybe my way is not as dramatic as Naomi Harris, but it's going to be incredibly effective for an instant garden. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to dress our original surface with some manure. In my case, chicken manure, because that's what I got. Then we're going to absolutely scalp the ground. We're going to get this just as short as we possibly can, because I don't have a bunch of cardboard to spread over the ground first, which is optimum condition. Then we just start spreading it out by hand. 18 yards of wood chips with a rake. Yep, that's the way it goes. Each week we try to bring you a recipe from the garden. Right now, the only thing available in the garden are turnips, and I hate turnips. So, here's a quick and easy dough that can be used for a wide variety of recipes. We'll be using it in upcoming videos, so pay attention. First, we're going to mix 3 cups flour. We're going to add a half a tablespoon of salt. We're going to whisk that together. An insane amount of butter, a stick and a half. That's 6 ounces. Cut the butter in. I use a potato masher to cut my butter in because that's what I got. 1 large egg. And we're going to remember, just a reminder, this is a baking dough, not a frying dough. If it was a frying dough, we wouldn't be using quite as much butter, and we wouldn't be using butter. To make it a frying dough, you would use shortening. You would use either shortening or vegetable oil. You can even use lard, but you wouldn't need quite this much. About a 1/4 cup if you're making a frying dough. And this is going to start slowly coming together. And we're adding between a 1/4 cup and a half a cup of water to this, just as needed. And we're probably about there. And there's going to be this point where the easiest thing to do is to get your hands dirty and start folding it in on itself. And just kind of kneading it down and flipping it over. Maybe just a little more water. And we're just combining all those ingredients by hand. You can do this with a food processor. I don't think that you end up with as smooth of a dough. It clumps. It's just kind of hard to clean it out of the food processor too. If you're using an electric mixer, you're probably going to be doomed, but maybe your bread hook will do this. I've just found that the absolute easiest thing to do is just to get in there and fold it over with your hands. And you see it starts coming together pretty easy as that butter starts working in there. And you'll feel that dough. You don't want to overwork this. This shouldn't be... You see, it's not sticky like biscuit. This is, it's not sticky like biscuit, and you're not trying to get a stretch out of it like a bread dough, okay? This is just kind of a clumpy sort of a crust dough. And we're going to form it into a dough ball. Try and get all that goodness out of there, all the buttery goodness off the bottom of that bowl. We're going to form it into a dough ball. Make sure it's holding together. And like I said, you don't want to overwork it, but you do want it to bind to get that gluten going a little bit. We're just going to cut this in half. We're going to cut this in half, form it into 2 smaller dough balls. And since I'm out of tea towels, I'm just going to cover this with a paper towel. And we're going to put this in the refrigerator. Now, whenever I do this, I make 2 batches. And I've already made 1 batch. So you have to let it rest for about 10 or 15 minutes at least before you start working into the disc. But we've already made 1 batch. We got that cooling in the refrigerator. We're going to take this, put it in the refrigerator, and we're going to start rolling out our first batch. I'm going to lightly flour our working surface. Dust our rolling pin. Start with our first dough ball. You can almost push this out by hand, but you really want to get this pretty thin. Where's the cutter? Now we actually have a empanada cutter. We don't usually use it because it kind of cuts the bottom of the empanada right here. If you don't have an empanada cutter or a dough cutter, you can use a large round cookie cutter. You can use an old Chinese takeout container. You can use a bowl turned upside down. Just remember that all these sizes are a little bit different. You're looking for a disc that's about like that, which is almost right there. But just remember, you're going to have to adjust the thickness of your dough based on the opening at which you're cutting. Woo! Let's use this. This is usually the part where I pass things off to Travis, and he packs these up, but I'm going to go ahead and show you myself. And we've made a pastillo meat, and we've let this cool completely. You don't want to overfill it because they'll pop. See, I just overfilled this. This is why I pass it off to Travis. Fold it over. Crimp your little edges. And then gently place it on a tray for cooking. We're going to put these guys in the oven at 375 degrees for 18 to 25 minutes. And of course, while they're cooking, it's back to work for us. And what you get is a crispy, flaky crust. For our oven, they come out a little bit light. Put a little butter on top. They come out golden brown. Delicious, and they keep well. Now, a large injection of biomass is by far the fastest way to kickstart a garden, to kickstart any area of infertile ground that you're trying to bring back to life. This area has been sitting here fallow for about 6 years. All that I've done is mowed it. So we're gonna put these wood chips down on top. We've already put some chicken manure down. We're not gonna do any tilling. We're gonna let the wood chips smother out our weeds. Ideally, Ideally, we would be able to let this sit for at least one whole season. So we spread it in the fall and we let it sit all the way through the winter, and then we plant it come spring. We don't have that luxury of time right now. So we're gonna have to take some extra steps to make sure that our little watermelons are gonna get all the nutrients that they need. See, these green wood chips, they're gonna pull nitrogen right out of the soil. They'll just suck it up like a sponge. That's one reason why we added so much hot manure to the mix. Whew. I gotta get some water. Filming one-handed is raking with the other. Doesn't work. Alright, so we're doing this in the cool part of the day because it's a lot of work. We're not trying to blend in the soil, even though we're going to dress this with more soil here in the next step. But right now, I just want to get as much of that grass out of there as possible. Fill this in with dirt up to the level of mulch so that we're not mixing this mulch in with our soil. All right, special thanks to Bev for supplying these Kentucky Wonder beans for us, as well as some butter beans and some speckled butter beans. And we're going to go ahead and get these Kentucky Wonders right here. We're going to go ahead and get these guys ready for plant tomorrow. And we're just going to put them in a Ziploc storage bag with a wet paper towel and a little bit of extra water so that they can hydrate and they'll be ready for planting tomorrow. All right, we're out by the chicken coop, and I've been tipped off that that one of our employees here is stealing from us, and so we're going to go see if we can't catch him. Yep, there he is. Gotcha. Caught you. You know you're not supposed to be in here. You know this isn't where you belong. You're here to protect us from the copperheads, and we pay you. We give you an egg in the nectarine tree, but here you are in a nesting box. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? Oh my goodness, I can't believe this. And from the looks of things, I'd say this has been going on for a little while now. I am so disappointed. We're definitely going to have to write you up for this.